What is going on, YouTube? Sorry if my voice is kind of gone today. I'm not feeling on top of the world, but either way, coming back today with my Minnesota Vikings preview for 2016. So, the Vikings this year, one of the more intriguing teams to talk about. Really good season last year compared to how everyone expected them to do, 11-5. This is still overall an up-and-coming team surrounding their quarterback, which is the first of my three key players, Teddy Bridgewater. So when you're talking about, I'd say when you're talking about steals of the draft over the last 5 years at quarterback, you want to mention Russell Wilson, but I think Teddy Bridgewater is also one of those that you have to mention in there. I believe in 2014 he was the 30th overall pick, and I believe Johnny Manziel was drafted higher than he was. So either way, this is a guy that's going to have to be big this year for the Vikings to be able to be as successful as they were last year, if not, I'd say even better. Obviously this is an offense that doesn't really revolve around him. The main player is still Adrian Peterson, but I think he's got a little bit more weapons to work with this year, adding in Laquan Treadwell. I've actually mentioned all three of my key players before I've even gotten to them. But like I said, I think another year of progression from Teddy Bridge is going to be very, very important to the Vikings' chances of not only making the playoffs, but winning the NFC North. So jump into my next key player, which is, as I mentioned before, Adrian Peterson. And this is a pretty obvious one. Into his 30s now, still doing what we've all pretty much seen him do throughout his entire career. I don't see him slowing down this year. He might start to. He's 31 years old. It wouldn't surprise me too much, but every indication shows Adrian Peterson is still one of the best running backs in the NFL, arguably still the best. And stats last year showed that 1,485 yards, 11 touchdowns, still averaging about 4.5 yards per carry. I don't know if he'll replicate those stats this year, but as long as he's getting over 1,000 yards, maybe even 1,200 yards, and above 10 touchdowns, that's one of the most productive running backs in the NFL most years. So jump into my next key player in the last one, and the rookie wide receiver Laquan Treadwell. So Treadwell saw his draft stock drop pretty dramatically right before the draft. At least it seemed like it was about to. He ran a pretty slow 40 time. I believe it was around a later 4.5 or a 4.6. Either way, this dude is still, I guess aside from speed, this dude's still a really good athlete. He, in my opinion, was still the best receiver in the draft. And you know what? I think he finally gives Teddy Bridgewater that target, a big target that can go up and get jump balls on the outside that I feel like they've needed for a little while now, at least since Teddy Bridgewater came into the league. And he might not be the normal number one threat, but I think Stephon Diggs, opposite of Laquan Treadwell, can be big again this year. He had a pretty good year last year. Cordell Patterson still on the team. See if he can, his rookie year looked like he was going to be maybe a big time receiver in the NFL. Has turned into kind of just a return man and one of the more shifty players in the NFL. But again, I think this is a team that's got a decent wide receiving core this year. It's not great, which is why Laquan Treadwell is going to have to be big. So just talk about the defense for a little bit, since none of my key players were on the defense. This is going to be a defense that looks a little bit different from last year. They bring in Terrence Newman to start at corner. I don't know how much left you're going to get from him, how much he has left in the tank, but they have two very good, very, very good young corners, in my opinion, between Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes. So we'll see if Trey Waynes can take that next step this year. Mackenzie Alexander, the rookie out of Clemson, even though he didn't get a single interception last year at Clemson, he was one of the best lockdown corners in all of college football, and I think that's an invaluable tool in the NFL today, being able to be as good of a lockdown corner as he was in college football last year. They still got one of the best safeties in the league, in my opinion, with Harrison Smith. Eric Kendricks, one of the best young linebackers, alongside Anthony Barr. The linebacking core should be solid again this year, alongside Chad Greenway. And then defensive line, I think it'll be all right. Again, I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with the Vikings defensive line. Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin should be solid. So that's my insight on that whole part of it. So, worst case scenario for the Minnesota Vikings. I'd say 8-8 and they missed the playoffs. That's worst case scenario. I think this is a team that took such a big jump last year, and I don't think they really got worse in many areas of the team. I think they improved in a few of them. So 8-8 would really be if Teddy Bridgewater just took a step back, if Adrian Peterson's production declined, and if the defense just wasn't that good. So best case scenario, when a team's 11-5 last year and they get better, they were 1 point. I mean, they had a kind of a heartbreaking 1 point loss to the Seahawks last year in the in their wild card round game, and I think best case scenario this year is 12-4 with a loss in the NFC Championship. I still think that the Packers are the favorite to win this division, and this is a division that has two other teams in the Bears and Lions that finished off, or that one finished off the year extremely hot last year with the Lions, and then the Bears are a team that I think dramatically improved during the offseason. Either way, I think the Vikings are going to go 11-5 this year. I think you're going to look at a replication of a record from last year. Maybe an improvement in the playoffs, but that's for a separate video. So that'll pretty much do it for my Minnesota Vikings preview for 2016. If you want to see some previews in a day or two in advance, go check out my website. The link to that will be in the description below. Or if you just want to see all these previews drawn out. Later today, I'll be coming back finishing off the NFC North with the Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions football previews. But anyway, that's pretty much it. See ya.